Welcome back to the 2025 Opponent Preview Series. For those of you watching on YouTube, please like and subscribe to my channel. It helps my channel tremendously, and you'll get my name out there more and more. Helps me out tremendously with that. If you want to donate via PayPal, Venmo, and Cash App, if you like the content and you want to give a donation, I'll have the links in the description for that. It'll be a great help to say thank you for what I do. So let's continue. In part 5 of the 25 Canes Opponent Preview Series. Today, this preview is on the 2025 Florida State Seminoles, our opponent up at Doak Campbell Stadium in Tallahassee on October 4th. Well, where do you start with FSU? They were 13-0 in 2023. Then they dropped off the mat tremendously, going 2-10 last year. And that starts to raise concerns up in Tallahassee about Mike Norvell's future, who's now in year number 6 as the head man in Tallahassee. And there has been some coaching changes, and they've added some additions in the offseason. Let's hit with the new coordinators first. To tackle last year's issues, on both sides of the ball, he has new offensive and defensive coordinators. Gus Malzahn, who came over from UCF where he was the head coach, he's now the offensive coordinator. And Tony White takes the same position as defensive coordinator, coming over from Nebraska. Coming from the portal. You know, FSU has been in the portal a lot the last couple years. And they did so again this offseason. Namely at quarterback with Tom Castellanos coming over from BC to be the starting quarterback. At wide receiver, they added Deuce Robinson and Squirrel White. Robinson from SC, Squirrel White from Tennessee. They added four experienced linemen in the portal. On the defensive line, they added James Williams from Nebraska. At linebacker, they added Elijah Herring from Memphis and Stephon Thompson from Nebraska. And at defensive back, Jeremiah Wilson comes over. Let's look at their offense. Thomas Castellanos comes over from Boston College, and he will be the starter against Alabama in the opener. You know, he's very good. He's very dynamic. He's young. He's small, but he can make plays, and he's very good mobile quarterback. So that's one that could be an upgrade. That's going to be an upgrade for them. At running back, you know, they're very competitive. They have a very good room there. They got Cam Davis, Cassiah Holmes, and Samuel Singleton. Now at wide receivers, I mentioned with the main targets for Castellanos are going to be Deuce Robinson and Squirrel White. When you look at their offensive line, they have an enhanced performance from the line, and that's going to be key after the disaster of last year. And believe me, folks, it was a disaster. Luke Pettibon comes over from Wake Forest, and he's going to become a leader on that restructured O-line. So we're going to see what that line does right away. It's going to be trial under fire when they get Alabama in the opener, and I'll talk about the schedule in just a moment. Now let's switch over a little bit to the defensive side of the ball. That D-line is going to be strong with Darrell Jackson Jr. anticipating an All-American season. That's what the hope is in Tallahassee. At linebacker, Elijah Herring is going to lead that group, and Stephon Thompson, who came over in the portal from Nebraska, is going to be a very key part of that defense that Tony White wants to run. Remember, he was there with Tony White in Nebraska, so he'll know that defense very quickly, and that's going to be key. But the battle's going to be in the secondary. You have battle for positions at cornerback and safety with Shaheem Brown, KJ Kirkland, and Conrad Hussey vying for starting roles. And that's going to be an important piece because last year that secondary that defense was a disaster. It was a disaster. Okay. Look, when it comes to Mike Norvell's future, look, we all know his job stability is going to rely on how it performs this year. The thinking is he has to have 6 wins to show improvement and to maybe keep his job. Now, I mentioned the schedule earlier. Look at their home games in 25. After Bama, which we know is going to be the marquee game in the opener. Look at this home schedule out of conference. East Texas A&M, what? Kent State, what? Those outside of Alabama, that non-conference home schedule is an absolute joke. It is a joke. Okay. Now in conference, they get us up there. Pitt, Wake Forest, and Va-Tech come to Doak. They do have to go to Virginia, and they do have to go to in their conference opener, by the way. And they have to go to the West Coast this year to Stanford, which is never an easy thing when you have to go west. And of course, they got to go to Clemson. They go to NC State, and of course, they close at Florida. Like I said, the key matchup is going to be Bama in the opener on August 30th. Other key conference games, of course, are us on October 4th. I'll get to what it means for us in a second. At Clemson, November 8th. And at NC State, November 21st, to close the conference schedule on a Friday night. And it ends at Florida, which is not going to be an easy task this year, like it has in the past. Let's look at their predictions. The predictions differ, depending on who you talk to. Some say 7 to 8 wins and a return to bowl eligibility, while others say it's going to be a little more challenging to have a successful season. Hell, anything's a little more better than 2-10 last year. I mean, my God, can it get any worse? There's only one way they can go, and that's up. Now, CBS Sports thinks they're going to be in a bowl game this year. I tend to think the same thing. Now, although some predictions rank FSU behind teams like us and Clemson, they might be a surprise team this year. But I could tell you this much, they're not going 2-10 again. I could tell you that for a fact. Now, when you break them down overall, this is an opportunity for a new beginning up in Tallahassee and a return to success for the Noles. They have experienced players, and they brought fresh talent in through the portal. Well, now you have Gus Malzahn directing that offense and Tony White managing the defense. There is hope for a major turnaround. However, that Bama game August 30th is a real test off the bat. And we're going to find out a lot of how much FSU has improved from 2-10 last year. And how quickly those new players bond. Because we know Bama's going to come in there and they're going to want to give them a whipping. Okay? And of course, it'll depend on how they enhance key aspects and, of course, how they perform in a reliably tough schedule once conference play begins, especially after our game October 4th up there. And now, speaking of our game up there October 4th, let's look at this from a Canes point of view. We'll be coming off a bye week, and we should be no worse than 3-1 coming into Doak. Listen, like I said, that team's not going 2-10 again. I can tell you that for a fact. They will not go 2-10 again. And that team's going to want to come out and prove a point. Again, we're going to be coming off a bye. You know, maybe off a big win against the Gators at home. You know, it's the back end of a rivalry week, a rivalry gauntlet. You know, we get Notre Dame in the opener, like I said. Florida comes to Hard Rock on the 20th. We get a bye, then we go up to Tallahassee to start conference play. And that's going to be quite a gauntlet. So I think we have to come out going, like I said, they're going to want to come out and prove a point. We have to match that energy. That easy. Now, looking at the Seminoles in 2025, if I have to look at them now, I'm going to say my prediction for them, it's going to be a modest 8-4. I think they're going to improve. Then, like I said, they're not going to be 2-10 again. But I'm going to say 8-4 will be my prediction for the Seminoles in 2025. So when we go on to part 6 of the opponent preview series, I'll preview the Louisville Cardinals.